Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here more and more with Juck Milletti. Juck, how's it going?
Fantastic. I've been waiting for that forever, Tony.
We are here. It could be an interesting week. It will be an interesting weekend for the Buckeyes on the recruiting trail. Some announcements coming on Friday and Saturday, and so we wanted to preview those a little bit, get Juck's picks in on that, and then also, all of the official visits are now done for June, and so we thought, let's go and look at who's still uncommitted and whether we think they're going to be Buckeyes or not. And so I wanted to start with the first weekend, which was the uncommitted guys there, and as well as Benny Easter. So it's May 29th, which is David Gabriel-Georges, Marcus Fakatou, the five-star defensive lineman, and Benny Easter, who is currently committed to Texas Tech wide receiver. So I know everybody is very impatiently waiting for the David Gabriel-Georges DGG on July 22nd. Right now, I'm going to etch this in stone. You cannot take it back. How do you think that one's going to go?
Look, I'm as coin flip as anybody is on this thing, but it's 51-49 Buckeyes. I stand by that because there's just this part of me that thinks that they're just not going to lose like this. They're not going to let it happen. Not when you push 2 years into the table and all the time and all the effort and the entire coaching staff going down to visit and going up to Ontario to visit. Like, it just feels like this is one from the start. They were like, all right, here's the plan. And when it comes down to the end, we're going to make sure we don't lose. And that's what I'm sticking to. Now, this will be the last time I ever take this approach if they don't get this done, right? But for now, benefit of the doubt is they're going to get it done. And I really do genuinely think he wants to come to Ohio State more. So that's my 51-49. Do you have one?
We have a really good discussion about this on the most recent episode of the Time and Change with Shirley show, where we talk about the past, the present, and the future of Ohio State recruiting. And one of the points I made when we were talking about him on that show is, don't you have to kind of save face and make sure you get him at this point so that other programs don't just assume they can come and outbid you? Don't you at some point you have to put your foot down and say, no, I think he's going to be a Buckeye, but I know there are concerns that Tennessee's just going to continue to raise it. Like, at some point, if this was name your tune, Tennessee's going to be like, I will name that tune with 0 notes, without one single note. And then they're just going to try to like pick a random song and get it right. So I think they will go to the moon, and Ohio State needs to, shoot them out of the sky, if it were. I think Marcus Fakatou seems like that might be a little bit easier of a guess at this point. How are you feeling about that one?
Yeah, I've felt for quite a while now that this was not just a Buckeye lean, but this was a near certainty. Everything has been fantastic. I think that the offer that Ohio State has presented him is fantastic, but I think this goes back to the first time that he and the family came into town and how blown away mom and dad. This feels like a family that is very much one of those Ohio State families that just sees the difference in the maturity and the way Ohio State goes about things. And they were so comfortable. I wouldn't have been surprised if he committed coming off of that official. Of course, he did act like that coming out of all of his officials, but it was mom and dad who felt different to me. And this is a tight-knit family. When he comes, his official, everybody saw the clip of him talking about the way Ohio State was on the official. They weren't trying to do too much, and it was just genuine. And it felt like that's the feeling I got from mom and dad coming out of that first visit. It just all lines up too well. I think this is going to be Buckeyes.
And boy, he's a player. He is big, he's lanky, and he can add size. Like, to me, he looks like he's going to be a 285-pound defensive end. And it's like, how? And it's just like, he's big and he's athletic. And Joey Bosa was 275 on the edge for the Buckeyes and dropped weight to play essentially an outside linebacker in the NFL. But he's a big kid and he's athletic, and I think he's pretty special. And if they can get him, that would be huge. I think that's going to happen. The defensive line recruiting right now seems to be going pretty well, but that often happens in June. I guess we'll have to figure out revisit this in December to see how things are going there. Benny Easter, the wide receiver, is the other visitor from May 29th. And, I don't see that one happening. I don't have any inside information on him. The fact that he visited while he's committed is interesting to me. But where are you on this?
So Karlos Hankton and the guys that he offered since he took over the Ohio State position, it's been kind of interesting. He went down and offered Easton Royal and Benny Easter, two of the best wide receivers down south. One committed to Texas, one committed to Texas Tech, which tells us, these guys are getting big offers. And we're pretty sure Ohio State's not spending much this cycle. So that was pretty interesting right off the rip. Then a Louisiana kid and Miguel Whitley, nothing went anywhere with him. Kid from Pennsylvania, Cade Cooper, another kid from Georgia who committed to Georgia. It's like nothing's really come to any fruition, but he did get Benny Easter up for the official visit. And there were some people who were getting real excited about that in the recruiting industry. It just never felt real to me. It always felt to me like, and this is somewhat not inside info, but just kind of the way things have gone since Texas Tech has burst onto the scene. Whenever you see a guy who is a very highly rated guy sign with them out of high school, it kind of tells us what his agent and his family's priorities are for him through his college career. They want to maximize earnings. And that is just not what Ohio State is. They're kind of the exact opposite. You want to maximize earnings in the NFL. And it just always felt like a strange one, even though they got him up. But it was impressive to get him up for an official. And then he went to Ole Miss last week, and there's some people saying, well, that's a good thing because it means he's not locked in for Texas Tech. Or it could be an agent working the system, which, look, there's nothing nefarious about that. It happens all the time. I think that's what's going on here. I don't think there's any shot.
And if you're going to work it, using Ohio State is not a bad deal. Ohio State's usually, when they catch wind of that, it doesn't go well necessarily for that player. So those are the May 29th. Let's move to June 12th because the June 5th visits, they've all committed either to Ohio State or to other schools. Here's a big one. Caden Moss, interior lineman, plays left tackle in high school. All linemen do. Committing Friday at 7, announcing his commitment. Lots of buzz right now.
Lots of buzz.
The Buckeyes are looking good, and that kind of it definitely surprises me because he's a top 50-ish, 60 player, and certainly not from Ohio. I was Mississippi, I believe. I meant to look and see when was the last time they got somebody out of high school from Mississippi. I know it's certainly not a recruiting hotbed for Ohio State, not a pipeline, but I don't know. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
Well, we've now seen them tear down the Louisiana and Alabama walls in the last couple of cycles, and it's just fitting if they could do that in Mississippi as well. But this is one that was just always man, it sure feels like Ohio State is winning this recruitment. If it wasn't so far away and the old stereotypical, big fella from the South that doesn't want to leave too far from home, they could win this one. And you had Kentucky in the mix. Will Stein was doing well as well there. And then he goes and has his official last week, the final official at Ole Miss. And it's the way this is lining up, even if Ohio State had momentum or had it on an even playing field, Ole Miss being able to close this out with the final official, very likely to end this with a W. And, Bowens keep working. And now the information coming out is making this really interesting going into tomorrow night. If I had to flip the coin, man, I'm going to go that this is still Ole Miss, but that's probably just the pessimistic me that this usually doesn't go our way at the end. The only thing I'm going off of right now, and when we say it's getting hot, is Wilt Fong. And we've also seen that dude switch his pick 15 minutes before a number of times as well. So I just can't say that that's going to sway me all too much. But I think Bowen, regardless, has done an excellent job. Tony, if he gets him, my gosh, dude, we're talking about 11 kids in 2 classes, 8 of them blue chippers, 2 of them top 100s. I mean, this would just be amazing.
And now moving to a 5 for 5 to have offensive linemen that you can develop, but are also good. And maybe they stick around for 5 years, maybe they don't. But the idea that now you're recruiting guys that can stick around and produce, and if they don't, you've got guys waiting in the wings as well. He's done a bang up job. I know people want to see better production on the field, and we'll see if that happens as well. Monsanna Torbert, cornerback from Ohio, took his official visit to Ohio State June 12th. Deciding between Michigan, Ohio State, anybody else in there. I know he's a guy that was committed to Indiana and then flipped and just decommitted. And so the Midwest wants him. What's going to happen there?
So I think this is a Louisville, Michigan battle at this point. Okay. And this is a guy who is super fast, man. Really, really fast kid. Love watching him on offense. He's a really dynamic quarterback, but a good defender as well. And at 5'11", pretty long arms, not the 6'1", 6'2" guy that Walt usually likes. But he's a top 100 overall for a reason. And he was committed to Indiana, decommits from Indiana, and it felt like Ohio State had all the momentum at that point. And coming out of that official, they were trying to keep him from going to Michigan, and they couldn't. And Kerry Combs gets the Cincinnati kid up there. He's leading his recruitment, and he did a bang-up job. And we knew that Michigan was going to spend heavy at the cornerback position this cycle, and it seems like they have. But Louisville and Vince Marrow are really coming after him hard. He would be the number one player in their class. They've been spending a lot on this recruiting cycle since they brought him in as a GM. They've got 5 Ohio kids already. They're doing a real good job. And that's pretty enticing for a kid from Cincinnati to stay close to home and make a whole lot of money playing at Louisville, starting early, probably getting some good guarantees. So to me, this is the Buckeyes. They're already out of this, I feel. This is Ohio State, Louisville. I'm sorry, Michigan, Louisville, I meant.
Yeah. Just as an aside, I'm looking forward to watching Louisville this year. I want to see Lincoln Keenholz run an offense and see what he does. The idea of a Ohio State Michigan recruiting battles is, I think there's justification for paying up for that, because not only do you help yourself, you hurt your rival. Like, do you just add 10% to it? Do you what is a good number to keep somebody from going to your rival and also coming to you? What's it worth to harm your rival as well as help yourself?
It's a great point. I mean, if it's someone you want, you're already after him. He's a guy that you want on your roster. That means they're getting a good player. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's definitely worth an extra 10% to me, maybe 15, 17.
That's where you ask your fans, do you want this guy going to Ohio State? I don't think you do. Scan this QR code and send us some money. You said you don't think Ohio State's in it. We talked on the most recent Time and Change Will Surely show about Monshun Sales for about 3 seconds. 5-star receiver from Indiana. You said you don't even think Ohio State's on the board. Has your opinion changed in the day or two since we recorded that show?
No, I'll tell you what, Steve Wiltfong continues to push that Ohio State is in on it. So, if that gives anyone else some hope, they want to feel confident about it. I don't think there's any chance in hell.
He would have to be willing to take, I think, a pretty stiff discount compared to what he could get elsewhere, especially from Indiana.
That's exactly
which is his home state.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Tony. They're offering him between them and Alabama. Ohio State's just not in the market for that this year, coming off of Chris Henry, and they had to pay quite a bit to get your Quaden Guilford in, who finished a 5-star. I think a lot of people forget. Mm-hmm. Finished a 5-star, and they had to hold off Lane Kiffin at the end. Had to hold him off twice, when he was at Ole Miss and then at LSU, because they really believed in Jaquaden. And now the emergence of Brock, it's like, all right, we got a great freshman crew here. We've got Jameer. And Jameer, despite being in state, Miami was coming after him hard. Mm-hmm. There was some action there. He's getting paid well. They're in the market for a guy of Blake Wong's stature, a top 300 4-star kid, that kind of price range. And if it's not going to be Blake, it'll be somebody like him. As far as that money for Monshun, that's just not happening.
Yeah, there's also the retention of those guys next year. Now, money will open up from Jeremiah Smith, but I don't know that they're going to. His money's not going to just all stay in the wide receiver room.
Tony, I've heard his money spent like 17 times already.
Yeah, it's like it's already elsewhere because you've got to get this and that, and hey, it is a lot of money to spread around, and I'm sure the rest of the assistant coaches have been looking at the Ohio State receiver room for the last couple of years, being like, "Hey, we're on the team too." But also, thank you for having Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting him. You mentioned Blake Wong, so we'll move to the final week of official visits. Blake Wong, 4-star receiver. I really like him, and I know you absolutely love him. What's that coming down to right now in terms of his decision, which will be Saturday, I believe, 5 p.m. How you feeling?
So talked to Blake on Wednesday, and basically this is just an Ohio State, BYU, and a long shot for Oregon. That's who remains here. So UCLA, Utah are off the list here. I don't think Oregon had enough momentum from Wednesday to Saturday to do anything. So it's Ohio State, BYU. Asked him, what is it about BYU that is enticing to you? Because we know what it is for Ohio State, what it's always been, when for the last year he's been wanting to go to Ohio State. He's very similar in mindset to Brock Boyd in that he feels overlooked. He's a top 300 kid, but he feels like he's one of the best in the country. He wants to prove it at Ohio State. Obviously, he's an Asian wide receiver. There aren't many like him. He acknowledges that and the uniqueness of that. My gosh, Tony, what a big story it would be if he did blow up at Ohio State. But all of that stuff, I mean, super competitive kid, and he wants it and believes in himself. But he is LDS. He does fit in not just with the wide receiver coach and Sataki, but the entire coaching staff. He made sure to point that out, loves them all, and feels very much at home culturally at BYU. And from a developmental perspective, he has enough faith in himself to believe that he can develop no matter where he goes because he's got that kind of work ethic and talent. And all that said, I think this does unfortunately end up a BYU win.
Yeah, it's tough to go against that and the comfort there and the purpose there. It's tough to compete against that. Ohio State has been able to win some of those battles, like Enoch Vamahi, one name that put his mission on hold for Ohio State, and it's a tough battle. Let's go to defensive tackle Karlos May, who was a June 19th visitor and a top 100 defensive tackle, big kid, athletic. Does Ohio State even need any more defensive linemen at this rate? This is just, come on. But no, they do need some tackles, and he could be a nice fit. Where's this one going?
So talk to him after his visit. We've got a kid from Alabama who's been on the Auburn campus like 9 times. And, Georgia and Auburn are right next to each other. So it was between Auburn and Georgia and then Ohio State, way, way far away up north. So the advantage clearly with them, big time. And he leaves the Georgia official visit, and they had taken the lead over Auburn. And that's what it was coming into his Ohio State visit. And we had talked, Tony, about this particular weekend and how Ohio State at one point had Tyler Alexander and Jamar Thompson. And there was 4 total defensive tackles that were coming for this final weekend. And Ohio State canceled them all. They didn't cancel. Ohio State canceled them all except for Karlos May. And that meant a whole lot to him because they got to sit there all weekend and sell to him, you're the guy. He brought it up himself. They had all these other guys that were supposed to come and they didn't come. I know. This went unbelievably well. And I have a very high level of certainty that this one is Buckeyes.
You know how you're saying sometimes the kids use the schools to up their rates? Maybe Ohio State should start using those kind of official visits and then canceling them and just bringing the one kid that they had the only intentions of ever talking to. And now they could be like, look, we were going to bring in 6 other guys, And we said, no, you're the only guy we want. Meanwhile, they were never interested, or they were never going to try to win those guys over. But if it looks good for a recruit in the family, all's fair. Hey, you got to battle the SEC. All's fair now.
It
you
is.
know, this is recruiting. There are no rules.
So then we talk about that right quick for a second, Tom?
Yeah.
If we're talking David Jacobs, Marcus Fakatou, Wyatt Smith, Karlos May, it's the best defensive line 4-man pack ever. We're talking 2 5-stars. I actually think Wyatt Smith will finish a 5-star, but he's a top 100. So 2 5-stars, 2 top 100. Previously, you're looking at Jack and JT, then Michael Hall Jr. was just top 100, and then Tyleek was a top 250-ish prospect. So this beats that class, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have to look back and see what other classes there were, but that's the one everybody points to. And Tyleek Williams outshined his ranking. Michael Hall at times was fantastic, and yeah, everybody points to that one. But this one, if it all shakes out,
it's gotta shake out.
I know every year we say about the defensive line class, if it all shakes out, because there have been other best defensive line classes ever.
Well, we were just talking about 2023 the other day, how that one had an opportunity with Dylan Stewart and Marquise Lightfoot and Justin Scott, and boy, that didn't work out.
Yeah. So, 6 months until signing day. Just a reminder. Brady Edmunds committed to Ohio State. He's a quarterback. He was part of that official visit. Going to be deciding here eventually in the next week or two, I would assume, in terms of Ohio State, UCLA. He's felt the love from UCLA. We'll see if he felt the love and got his answers from Ohio State. I don't know if you have any more on him, where you think this is going. It feels like if Ohio State doesn't want him, they can give him the answers that he's not looking for, and then they can just be done with it. If Ohio State does want him, and because he wants to be a Buckeye, I think that's what I got from him talking to him, is he wants to be a Buckeye, but he's got to feel wanted.
So I feel the same way, Tony, which is why I felt like if they really want him, he will be locked in come Sunday night after that official visit, because I feel like they would have given him every answer that he needed to be like, all right, I'm done. I'm shutting it down. And instead he came out saying, a couple weeks, I'll make my decision, almost as if he's not committed, as if it's a 50-50 and he's making his final decision. And that to me had me stunned, honestly. I thought that they would say everything they needed to say. And he, again, remember, he came in early to do camp and everything because clearly that's what he wants. So he's looking to hear what he's looking to hear. And it almost felt like maybe he didn't get quite the convincing pinch that he wanted, or get full clarity that he wanted, or else I felt like he would have shut it down. So now I'm kind of leaning like this might be UCLA.
Because when I asked him, how long, if you get the answers that you're looking for, is this going to be like, how long will it take you? And he said it would be a pretty quick turnaround. And as we said in the Time and Change show, quick to somebody may not be quick to somebody else. And it's a relative term. But he has been adamant that this is now a business decision. So he's going to take emotion out of it, I think. And that's what he's done here. Take emotion out of it and then make that business decision and weigh things and explore things, because he clearly likes UCLA and Bob Chesney, and that's understandable. Everybody loves Bob Chesney. So you want to respect that part of the recruitment, and it'll be, I'm not going to be surprised if he ends up at UCLA, but I don't have anything one way or the other on this one. It's been an odd one, and through no fault of his own. But I would also say that if he had been what they thought he would eventually be, then there'd be no concerns from Ohio State. So clearly they have some questions. We've heard about the mobility and things like that. So questions have crept up. I guess don't accept a commitment from a quarterback that early if you're not entirely sure. But
he was the first of the top 20 rated quarterbacks to commit in that class. I mean, it was early. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Tough spot to
like,
be in, you know?
oh, 100%. Do you not take a quarterback? Because you can always let them go.
Yeah.
You can't always get them to commit to you,
Right.
but you can always let them go. And, we may see that here eventually. The last one I want to talk about, top 1,200, top 1,300 wide receiver, Jordan Donahoo. Good size, really, as I said, visited June 19th, took that. I'm not sure when he's going to be deciding. Could be relatively soon because his visits are all done. This is the third tier of how Ohio State has to operate in recruiting right now. If you get the top tier, you got the middle tier, then you've got a third tier, which is developmental, low number in terms of NIL. I'm sure other programs that he's in on are in on him, like I think Georgia Tech, going to offer more. Ohio State looking much more like, hey, you've got an offer. You saw everything that you needed to see. We can develop you. You're going to have to earn the money, though.
Yeah. So Georgia Tech, Minnesota, Cincinnati, and Ohio State. Quite the battle. I mean, it's not one we're used to seeing at wide receiver. But, at 6'4", when we look at the composition of the room next year, assuming you don't get anybody, David Adolph's gone, right? Jeremiah's gone. Now you're looking at Chris Henry Jr., Brock Boyd and Jaquaden Guilford as really your only guys over 6'1", and everybody else from Phil Bell on down is a relatively shorter guy. So getting in another 6'4" body would certainly be helpful. And as a guy who's, a 12'8", 100-meter guy, he's not fast, but he is large. He does look pretty good in the open field, too. He's got soft hands, caught, I think, about 35 balls for 600 yards last year.
Does well in traffic. I think he makes some contested catches, shows some good hands.
Yeah, I think so. Good body control. He's worth the offer. I definitely agree. Worth the offer. And what I really like about him is he's a 4.2 GPA guy with all the Ivy League offers. And when it's a project kid that works like that in school, makes me feel a lot more confident. And it also makes me feel a lot more confident that it's a guy that's going to pick Ohio State over, I'm going to take a little more money to go to Minnesota and be their wide receiver. So in the end, I'm kind of feeling good about it. But at the same time, if he doesn't choose Ohio State, then I didn't want him anyway. It's kind of how I feel about it. If you're not smart enough to make that choice,
another bullet dodged, as we say in the recruiting industry. So there you go. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead. Let us know. Do you agree? Do you think Ohio State's going to get these guys? Which guys do you think Ohio State's got locked in? I'll be interested to see your comments on that. 5-star rating and review on the audio side. Thumbs up on this. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so. If you're listening and want to find us on YouTube, you can find us at youtube.com/@BuckeyeInsiders. That will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.